Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk about something a little bit different. It's not something that I often do on my channel, but I want to talk about randomness and some modularity and how you can use that in sound design to create ever-evolving pads, atmosphere, those kind of sounds. That's kind of what you're looking at here. Obviously the techniques that I'm going to explain here can also be applied to other elements. But I really like how it works for atmospheres and ambient sounds, those kind of things. So without further ado, let's get right into that.
Hey guys, I just wanted to quickly say if you want to support this channel, go to my Spotify or Apple Music. There you can follow me and add some of my songs to your daily listening playlist. Thank you very much. Let's get back into the video.
Alright, I have two patches that I want to show you. One is a little bit more gentle and one is a little bit more dark. Just a little bit of contrast here. So I'm just going to play each and every one of them and have you listen so you can quickly get an idea of what they sound like, and then I'll get into how they're actually made. The idea behind this technique is that you have some random elements or pseudo-random elements that you're using to create some of the basis of the sound that you're making. And then in this case of the ambient sound, it is also a lot of reverb and delay put on top of that to kind of smear it all together and create the kind of the ambience that gives the sound the space. But it all starts with some controlled random idea here. So for the first technique, I'm going to show you how you can use randomized MIDI notes and timings that are not really on the beat of the song. And for the second one, I want to show you how you can use LFOs to select between different groups of oscillators within phaseband and then use very slow LFOs that modulate various parameters to create random or pseudo-random looking waveforms that are then played. So let's start with the first one, and this is a pretty cool idea here. So what I'm doing is I'm triggering a bunch of notes here, all within the C minor scale. So you can see these are all within the C minor scale, and they're just the same small idea copied over a bunch of times and stacked up in terms of octaves. And those are the notes that we want to trigger in this case. And the way I'm triggering them is by sending a random one of them using this arpeggiator into VCV rack where some of the magic happens. So I haven't been showing off VCV rack, but it is a VST that I have and that I sometimes play with. I'm definitely not an expert on it, and I would like to take some more time and actually learn it. But for now I'll just discuss this simple patch, and unfortunately I don't have the expertise to comment on loads of other things. But for this patch, I think I can guide you through what's happening. So, this is the patch right here. If you have never seen VCV rack, then this might look a little bit scary, but trust me, it is not. It's just a bunch of modules. As you can see, we have 5 up top here and 3 more here, so it's 11 modules. And it's not very complex what's happening here. So let's look at what's going on here. So this is taking MIDI input and this is taking output. So you don't really have to worry about that. And then this is an ADSR which is controlling our volume, so you can just ignore that as well. The main idea of this patch is this oscillator here, and then we have a reverb adding a little bit of texture, and then we have these 2 sequences which are set up in a way that they create kind of a weird rhythm that we can use for some of the parameters, mainly inside the synth here. So let's look what is going on here. The only thing that you need to know that anytime a note is played, this sequencer moves on a step, and then you can see from this last step it's actually going to trigger this other sequencer. So for every 5 notes that are played, this sequencer is going to run, because these last 3 notes are disabled with these steps. So we're counting only the first 5 steps. You can see by the light these are turned off, and then at the 6th step it's just going to loop back here and then continue on running for every note. So every 5 notes this one moves on 1 note, and again this is 7 steps. So at the 8th step it's just gonna loop back and go to the next one. Now here we're taking row number 1, so those are these values up top here, which you can see I've slightly randomly tweaked to values that I liked, and just by experimentation I landed up on these values. And the first one is setting the texture here, this morph parameter on this oscillator, which is just going to morph between different versions of a triangle and a saw here. So it is going to add some slight harmonics to it and maybe make it a little bit richer. And the second one here is changing actually the engine. So this synthesizer has a few different engines that you can use, and just by clicking on this model I can select through them, and I can also modulate which engine it selects, and based on that engine this parameter is also going to do different things. So that goes out through our ADSR, which is just triggered from here, and it has these parameters here, not very interesting, but a little bit of release as you can see, and a very short attack. So that goes through a texture synthesizer, which is this reverb granular kind of module here, and that just goes to the output. And this just adds a little bit of extra texture to it, smears it all together, and just makes it sound more like a single sound as opposed to random notes being triggered every 8th note. So that then goes into this contraption here, which is a pitch shifter, which has its mix modulated up and down by the slow LFO, going slowly up and down using a sine wave. And then this pitch shifter is just pitch shifting it up an octave, and that then goes through the filter, which as you can see has this neat little curve to take some of the high end out of this area. And then finally we have our echo here. Now this is a very long delay, 1/2 dotted notes, so that takes a long time to actually play. I think it takes that amount of time to play, if I'm not mistaken. So it will take almost a bar for it to redo the delay. But it's a very slow delay, and it's not being modulated. I had it modulated before, but it was not actually doing anything. So I just kind of removed that for this part here. So you can see it's just the filter being modulated going down and up, and that's creating the whole sound that we hear. You can now hear the delay kind of ringing out, right? So it's this very lush, long delay, which really adds some texture to it. The final thing that I quickly want to mention is this ambience rack. So this is without it. This is just the main ambience that we give to the texture. You can really hear it make the difference, and basically what this is a collection of delays and reverbs from me. So I can quickly go in there. If I open this up, you can see we have 2 racks here. One is just 2 selections of delays, so we have the Echo Boy and H Delay Stereo, and then this other is actually 3 reverbs, H Reverb Long, we have Valhalla Supermassive, and then we have M Turbo Verb. And this selector is just selecting between the different reverbs, and in this case between the 2 different delays. And that's just done through the change selector here and here as well, as you can see. So it's a little bit of a complex rack, but what this allows me to do is allows me to dial in very wet reverbs and delays, very long reverb and delays. That's kind of what I use it for. These are extreme settings. If I want to do some ambient sound design, this rack is what I use for that. If you're interested in a more in-depth explanation of this ambience rack, then please let me know and I can do an actual video on this kind of rack, how you would go about designing your own. if you don't have the exact reverbs and delays that I have. I cannot just give you the download links because these are obviously using particular plugins that you might not have, and then it won't work for you. So if you're interested in this, let me know, and I'll actually go on a video and show you kind of what you should look for in making one of those racks for yourself. So now let's go on to look at the second example. The second example is made in Faceplant, so you don't need VCV rack for this. I quickly want to mention that the VCV rack version that I use is the paid version. If you want to use it as a VST plugin, you do have to pay for it. So keep that in mind for this first example here, that I did pay for that version of VCV rack to actually have it run in the DAW smoothly without any issues. There used to be a bridged version, which didn't really work well, had a lot of problems. But now the version 2 is out, and the paid version allows you to just open it as a VST plugin, which is really handy. But yeah, I bought it. This isn't a sponsored segment, it's just letting you know I did buy it with my own money. If you're interested in that, then that's one of the options. But for this option, you just need Faceplant, and what's actually happening here is a pretty complex patch. You can see we have 7 LFOs here. 3 of them are doing modulation, and the other 4, if I open them quickly like this, you can see these are used to select different areas and select different sounds here. So we have these 4 groups, which are all these morphing waves, and all of the morphing is done with these LFOs. But the interesting part here for the start is just how these LFOs are played. So you can see for each of these groups, we're playing them all the time. But these LFOs here, with this custom shape that I made, where you go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, and you get this kind of smooth window-like curve that you can use to select different segments by changing the phase. So these are just 4 copies of the same LFO here, and they're just aligned differently in terms of the phase. So you can see the phase down below is changing, and you can see how it kind of goes up here, and then this one goes up, and then that one goes up, and then that one goes up. So they're kind of switching which of these groups is being played at what time. So that's kind of predictable. You can see the it's just BPM linked, so it takes 4 bars. It takes 1 bar for each to actually play, and then it kind of crossfades between them. Where the randomness in here and the generative part comes in is in these LFOs. So you can see these are set basically to random very low frequencies. And I'm using this to modulate a whole bunch of parameters in here. You can see the format filter is pretty strongly modulated. We have this drive in this particular patch, which is being modulated by this LFO. And then here we have, let's see, maybe something up here. Where is this linked to? Also the format filter, phase distortion tone, and then drive as well. That might actually be the same drive, yes. So it's being modulated by 2 different drives here, or by 2 different LFOs, as you can see. And then all of these yellow ones are FM amounts. So all of these tones that you see, for example, this one is a mix of a whole bunch of them. And this is 1 FM setup here, which is being modulated by one of these. We should probably be able to find it doing this, but not having any luck of right now. But you can see if I actually go in here that this is being modulated by an LFO, and that's what's making it move as well right now, even though we're not really playing anything. So all of the FM setups that I have are being modulated by one of these LFOs. Now without the ambience rack, it sounds like this. And you can hear that there is a pretty strong cohesion between the different elements. Now that really comes from all of the effects. So if I turn off these effects, you can hear that it's just 4 random sounds playing one after the other. So I'm just going to play this and then turn the effects on one by one, and you can hear what kind of difference it makes. The biggest difference is probably going to be this phase distortion and the format filter here. but this disperser is also giving it some unique tone. So let's quickly turn the playing on and let's listen to what each of the effects does. Now the cool thing about these patches is that they don't really repeat, and the reason why that is because they're both based on this pseudo random kind of idea here. So the second one a little bit more pseudo random than actual random. The first one obviously uses those random notes that are actually randomly triggered. Well, that's still technically pseudo randomness. You can almost kind of say that that's just purely randomness because it's out of your control. But the second example is actually not any random modulation going on. It's just three LFOs that are set up in a way that they don't really interact with each other, in that the frequencies aren't like clean multiples of each other. It's not like one is taking a bar and the other is 2 bars and the other is 4 bars. They're really set to freeform, and they don't really overlap in terms of, as I said, one being a multiple of the other. So that means that they don't really repeat, because once the first LFO has finished one oscillation, it's not at an exact same point in the second LFO as when the first LFO started, if that makes sense. So the first LFO is repeating at different points, or starting at different points of LFO2 and LFO3, because they're going at different frequencies. So this was a little bit of a last minute topic for a video, but I hope you enjoyed it either way. If you want to support this channel for whatever reason, then there's a link below in the description to my website, where you can find a whole bunch of resources that I create, a whole bunch of different products. You can find my music, which you can listen to, and you can find a way to donate directly to me if you enjoy what I do here, either once or monthly. You can just set it up, and it's a PayPal way of donating, so it's very easy. But this is going to be it. If you enjoyed this video, then leave a like, and if you're new here, subscribe to don't miss any future videos. If you want to be notified by YouTube, you can turn on the bell, which is the little knob next to the subscribe button. I think everybody knows that, but just saying so that you know. Then YouTube will actually send you a notification if I release a video, so you'll be immediately notified and you can see the next one once it comes out. But that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed. As I said, a little bit of a different topic, but if you have something that you want me to cover in a next video, then let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's going to be it. Bye bye.